Has America's Navy just made our politicians look stupid? I mean, it's just announced it's buying 9 new submarines, top-of-the-line ones, Virginia class. But compare now their new submarines to the 12 that the Turnbull government ordered 3 years ago. Now, the American subs on the left, they're going to be nuclear-powered. Australia's, well, we're getting the French designers to switch to diesel-electric from the original nuclear design. America's subs are going to cost $3.5 billion each, Australian dollars. Ours have already blown out to $6.5. America's are going to have cruise missiles, probably with nuclear warheads, real teeth, and ours, of course, won't. America is going to get its first sub delivered in 6 years' time. We won't get our first one for another 13 years, and that is despite our head start, 3-year head start. And of course, America's subs being nuclear powered, they've got so much more endurance. Now, joining me is Gary Johnston. He's the founder of JCar Electronics. He's also head of Submarines For Australia, which is a lobby group to get Australia the best submarines possible for the money. Gary Johnston, thank you so much indeed for joining me. Look, I'm probably speaking right to your hymn book here. Have we been dudded?
We have been dudded right royally. Thank you for having me on your program, Andrew. I have never in my life of business seen a worse deal that's ever been perpetuated on the government, and the government has had some bad deals over the centuries. This is terrible. It's just got beyond a farce. We have to go on.
But let me go through some of this bit by bit, Gary. I mean, for a start, why are America's submarines nearly half the price of our own?
Because the Americans have been making the Virginia-class submarines for about 15 years, and they know how to make them. There was a brief hiatus when Obama was in power and Glasnost came along, and they stopped making submarines, but they realised that they still need to maintain their sovereignty. And this order for 9 more units is just runs on a general upgrade of the US Navy. The Virginia class is a very mature technology, and it's a damn fine nuclear warship. There is a new one coming. This is basically an interim order for submarines, and there will be a new submarine coming. They don't let the grass grow under their feet, the Americans. They keep up to the latest developments. The bottom line is that the Defence White Paper that specified the future submarine is totally obsolete. It was before Donald Trump. It's now in an environment where we cannot ignore the reality of having to go to a nuclear-powered submarine. We're a first world country. We need to demonstrate that to the rest of the world that we're a first world country, and we have to abandon this silly diesel option. The first diesel submarine, if we're lucky, will be delivered in 2032 if there are no glitches. It can do 4 knots underwater. You can walk that fast. It'll take 2 to 3 weeks to get on patrol from Fremantle, and by then the crew will start getting a little bit tired, and it's got to spend another 2 or 3 weeks up there. The area, the South China Sea, will be infested with about 230 submarines, mostly nuclear, mostly Chinese. Who knows where the Trump administration will be in that scenario, and we'll only have one. We're getting them on the drip between 2032 and 2049, which is just not good enough.
It's just incredible, Gary. Look, honestly, this drives me nuts, really. Now, I accept that it's not quite fair to say the Americans will have it half the price of ours, because obviously if we were to get their submarines, just, say, well, look, since you're making 9 for yourself, can you just bung on 12 for us? We would have to have a nuclear support industry in Australia, which has a political risk, but also would involve some capital costs. So I accept that, and I accept there would have to be some modification for Australian conditions. But really, this is insane. It seems to me insane. And I just wonder, shouldn't we just say, it is possible, isn't it, say, listen, let's take a few off the peg, you know, we'll just add 12 more to your run and we'll integrate with your Navy, because if we're going to be defending ourselves against anyone, we will need American support, and it makes sense to have a boat that's fully integrated with the American forces.
That's exactly right. The combat system that the Americans run is on the Collins-class submarine right now. Look, it's very difficult to pursue the fantasy that we can get the American Virginia-class submarine, because even with the best of intentions, they don't have the capacity to make any more than 2 per year, and that order will take them out to the end of the 20s. The British have got a submarine called the Trafalgar class, which is not bad, but the great irony in all of this, the great irony is that the submarine that we have ordered from the French, which is supposed to be converted to a diesel, is a nuclear submarine, and it's not a bad sub, and it's sitting on a slipway in Cherbourg. The French would love to see us wake up to ourselves and order the French nuke. We've bought
Which works.
Yeah,
Which works. We don't even know if the diesel one can work in that space that they've allocated to it.
It's a sheet of paper.
It's unproven.
It's unproven.
Honestly, Gary, this is insane. But listen, final question, but it will be a consolation, won't it, if China ever does sack the subs that we eventually do get, too late, too slow, not nuclear. It'll be a consolation to us to say, well, at least they weren't nuclear, because that's bad for the environment, and at least we built them in Adelaide. Glug, 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 glug. That'll be a consolation, won't it?
Look, I've always thought that trying to build a submarine in Adelaide for a few grubby pay packets has got nothing to do with our protection of our sovereign borders. We should be totally rational and buy the submarines from the best possible source, whether it be the Virginia class, if they can make them for us, or whether it be the French. The South Australia doesn't make wind turbines. They certainly use a lot of them. They don't seem to want to make wind turbines. They had one of the world's best car manufacturing plants in Elizabeth and Adelaide, turning out Commodores that were about the build quality of BMWs. What did they do? They shut the factory. The fact is that that factory always was going to employ more people than submarines. It's just
Gary,
stupid.
If we're going to talk about the idiocy of this to the last point of stupidity, we'll be here until tomorrow. So, look, people have just got to look at this and shake their heads about what's going on. This wasn't about national defence, it's about votes and job creation and everything else but. Gary, thank you so much indeed for fighting the fight on this. I hope perhaps you'll end up a winner on it. Gary Johnston, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Andrew.